How's it going, buckos? Today we are making another bait like we always do on this channel. So today we're making a space trout lipless crankbait. So basically I'm gonna try and do a trout color scheme on here, but instead we're gonna invert the colors. We're gonna have lots of blues and purples and silvers on this bait, but we're gonna try and go along the paint scheme, the similar idea of a trout, except we're gonna change up the colors and we're gonna change up the gills a little bit. So let's go cut this bait out. Alright, so we're going to draw some chamfer lines on here, and this basically just tells me what I need to cut off from the sides. And so I want pretty flat sides, so I'm not going to take off a whole bunch. So with these chamfer lines, I'll use this to cut off here on the bandsaw, I'll cut that off on the bandsaw. And that's why I glued this on the bottom, that way I can move on the bandsaw like this way. That way we get even cuts right here. So let's do that. So this didn't turn out perfect at all, so we're going to fix this up on the belt sander. So after going at it on the belt sander for a little bit, we got our pretty basic shape down. So we're going to go at this with some 80 grit and sand it down a little bit. And then we'll hit it with some 120 to smooth it out. And then we'll carve some gills. Alright, so I got a strip of 80 grit. And we're just going to sand down some of these sharper bits right here. Gotta make sure we don't lose too much wood. And we'll we'll round this out a bit. It's a bit blocky towards the end, so. Those gills came out fantastic. So now we're gonna add some weight in the belly and we're gonna add some line ties on. Alright, giant lipless. Let's get some weight in here. You know, I don't think that's enough lead holes. I'm gonna take this out and we're gonna put a couple more right there. This is a pretty big bait, so it's gonna need a lot of lead to hold this much buoyant wood down, so. You can't hold me down. Oops. Take that off. Ooh. Joba's moving on me. Alright, last night I drenched this thing in some super glue. I lost some brain cells in the process, but now we got a bait that's cleared. We're gonna put some lead in the bottom and then we're gonna go test this out in my pool. So I don't like melting lead, so I have these little lead weights, these little snap-on lead weights, and I just drop them in the belly. You could probably do the same thing with birdshot. Goodness. Dude, what? Alright, go in there. You can probably do the same thing with birdshot. You get the same effect. But, you know, I just got a bunch of these for Christmas, and I have them on hand. So I mash a few in there, and then I take some sort of tool. That's not going to work. I take something, and I just kind of mash them in there. Stay down, because the lead's pretty pliable and easy to move around. So you just kind of take something, smush them down in there. Okay, we're out at the testing pond and we got the bait, so let's see how she swims. So real quick, before we fish the bait, I want to say a couple things. So this is where one hook will go and this is where another hook will go over here. But you notice we have two spots for our line ties. Your traditional lipless crank will have one up here, but I kind of want to see if this will glide. So I put one on here because I think it'll look slicker if we have a line tie down here than instead of there. So this is like purely aesthetic, but I'm going to see if it affects the action. So we're going to try both. And if it glides, I'm going to keep this one. If it doesn't glide, then we'll make it a lipless crank entirely. But if this is a lipless glide, I will be super happy. Okay, so it's a floating glide bait almost. Pretty interesting action. I've never had a bait do this before. So this tied up in the crank configuration. Let's see how the action goes like this. I mean, it's got a pretty good lipless crank action, but I'm really liking the more glide version of this. The crank isn't as stable. We're gonna go with this version. We're gonna pop this one off, so we might as well just do it while we're here. Alright, so we're going to do this a lipless glide bait. And this is going to be the configuration of our hook things. And if you don't know how baits work, basically, as our reeling, so our line ties right here, water comes and pushes against the bait. And you see the front of our bait, it's angled slightly to both ways. So water is going to push this way, and it makes this force where water will push on the sides of the bait. So as the water comes across the front of the face of the bait, it pushes this way. And that makes the bait go like this. And when bait's like this, water's coming, and now that the bait is turned this way, water's going to come and hit this side. That's going to make the bait, as the water comes down, want to push this way. That's kind of how you get either a cranking action or a glide action. This is a really long, slender bait, so we got more of a woof, woof, which if we had the crank, it's more of a so that's just some bait science for y'all. Keep that in mind when you're making your lures. I would always recommend testing your lures before you paint it, because there's been many times where I have painted a lure only to figure out it didn't work. So take the extra time, make sure you seal your lures before you do it, and let's go carve some eyes on this bad boy. Alright, eye spots are done. Baking soda. Boom, boom, boom. I recommend thin super glue, but mine has dried up, so I'm using this regular liquid super glue, so it's not going to penetrate it as fast, but you can see right now it soaks down in there. And just like that, we got the bait filled, so we got a bait that's all ready to paint. So I'm going to get my painting stuff ready and we'll get painting. I think first we're going to start off with a base coat of white. So here is our blank slate. What we're going to do is we're going to do purple along the top and teal-ish blue along the bottom. And I think we're going to go for like a space trout looking theme. It's kind of the idea I had for this lure. So we're going to do that, and then we'll put some sparkly junk, glitter junk, and the clear coat, and then we will move on from there. So this is the color we have on the base right now. I'm pretty happy with how it looks. So now we're going to clear coat it. I have some Alumilite UV. And, you know, I would use epoxy, but I don't have any. So we're just going to use this. Has a little bit of sparkle mixed in. Just some glitter I found laying around the shop. So we're just going to brush this on. And just give it a thin coat. That way, like, so if I mess up in between layers, or I don't like the paint scheme, I can always just wipe it off and still have this base coat underneath. So this thing has literally been in UV light for forever. The clear coat is finally dry. We still preserve the details of the gills, which is pretty good. And now we're going to move on to the next layer of paint. Alright, so we got the mesh on the bait. So this is all nice and tight, that way we get some really clean scales. So I'm thinking we're probably going to do like some color shift purple along the top and some silver towards the bottom, and then I don't know what we'll do towards the middle, but we'll figure it out once we get there. I'm going to kind of roll with the punches because I really don't know what I'm going to put on this bait. So first we're going to come up with the scales with some pearlized white. So now we're going to get a little crazy up in here. We're going to use some of this almost teal, metallic teal, and we're going to go along the purple along the top. I just want to see what happens. I think it'll look cool with the purple in between the scales, and then have this. And then we'll do purple over the green. So we'll do a flip, and we'll just see what happens. So we got a lot of green going on at the top, so I want to accentuate that blue at the bottom, which does have some green in it. So we got some green-purple color shift. We'll do that along the bottom scales. Okay, before we take this mesh off, I want to take a moment to appreciate this. So we got this really nice green along the top, and then we have this purple, which I wasn't going for this, but there's purple in the middle, and then this blue really really made this teal shine. So it's gonna look really cool once you get this off. And also, it doesn't look like it on camera, but this is a really bass green along the top. So this is definitely gonna attract and shine and look like a fish. This is gonna be awesome. Oh, that's dope. That's sick. That's so clean. So here's what it looked like before, and on the other side I've rubbed off the paint off the gills with just like a wet Q-tip. We're about to do the same thing on this gills, and then we can paint these by hand. Well boys, I got a clear coat on here, and I gotta say, this thing looks awesome. Probably one of my best baits I made paint scheme wise. You know, super detailed. Probably the best one I've done on the channel. I've done a few others that I've done outside the channel, just doing them for fun, because you know, I do bait making for fun. It's not all just for business and YouTube and stuff like that. And so, this one's pretty good. I'm really proud of the way it looks. The clear coat's not fully cured, so I'm gonna leave it in this UV light, and I'll come back tomorrow and we'll fish it. Big and bass, baby. No, that's not a fish, that's my lure. Ooh, chill. It's got a little wake to it, I didn't know that.
Isn't it a wake lure?
What?
Isn't it a wake lure?
Nah, it's a glide bait, or at least what I think is a glide.
Older, that's what it is. Bro, fish on that side, all the fish probably got scared.
For real.
Bro, I don't care, bro. Fish was helping, bro.
Fish on, bro. Oh, dang.
I hope it was moss.
It was moss.
It was?
I don't know. The video, I'm gonna cut it out and make it look like it's a fish. Dang, bro, we really lost that one. Yeah. I just got caught on it, stuff I can tell. What are you doing, Carter?
I don't know, just trolling. Is that what you wanted to do?
Yeah. I didn't want it to have like a regular crankbait action, so I put the thing in the front. This guy's gonna come hit my lure.
Oh, bro.
Right at us.
What does it smell like?
Well, right now it's spinning.
Oh, Whoa, what the heck? That is very weird.
Yeah, it's kind of like back and forth, side to side. It's like
Is that the new painted one, the fancy one you just did?
yeah, the big purple one. Hey, thanks for watching this far into the video. We didn't catch any fish this time. I fished a couple hours on it, 2 or 3 hours. Didn't catch any fish, but we'll catch some more next time. So stick around. We got more bait making videos to come out in the future.